Hi, welcome to another episode of the Book of Luke. My name is Matthew Nichols, and I'm the lead pastor of Silver Creek Church. And we are on chapter 13 and 14. They're both short enough that I'm going to do them both together in one episode today and still keep it as close to 15 minutes as I possibly can. All right, so let's get started. About this same time, Jesus was told that Pilate had given orders for some people from Galilee to be killed while they were offering sacrifices. Jesus replied, "Do you think that these people were worse sinners than everyone else in Galilee just because of what happened to them? Not at all. But you can be sure that if you don't turn back to God, every one of you will also be killed. What about those 18 people who died when the Tower of Siloam fell on them? Do you think they were worse than everyone else in Jerusalem? Not at all. But you can be sure that if you don't turn back to God, every one of you will also die." Jesus then told him this story. A man had a fig tree growing in his vineyard. One day he went out to pick some figs, but he didn't find any. So he said to the gardener, "For 3 years I have come looking for figs on this tree, and I haven't found any yet. Chop it down. Why should it take up space?" The gardener answered, "Master, leave it for another year. I'll dig around it and put some manure on it to make it grow. Maybe it will have figs on it next year. If it doesn't, you can have it cut down." One Sabbath, Jesus was teaching in a Jewish meeting place, and a woman was there who had been crippled by an evil spirit for 18 years. She was completely bent over and could not straighten up. When Jesus saw the woman, he called her over and said, "You are now well." He placed his hands on her, and right away she stood up straight and praised God. The man in charge of the meeting place was angry because Jesus had healed someone on the Sabbath. So he said to the people, "Each week has 6 days when we can work. Come and be healed on one of those days, but not on the Sabbath." The Lord replied, "Are you trying to fool someone? Won't any of you untie your ox or donkey and lead it out to drink on Sabbath? This woman belongs to the family of Abraham, but Satan has kept her bound for 18 years. Isn't it right to set her free on the Sabbath?" Jesus' words made his enemies ashamed, but everyone else in the crowd was happy about the wonderful things he was doing. Jesus said, "What is God's kingdom like? What can I compare it with? It is like what happens when someone plants a mustard seed in a garden. The seed grows as big as a tree, and birds nest in its branches." Then Jesus said, "What can I compare God's kingdom with? It is like what happens when a woman mixes yeast into 3 batches of flour. Finally, all the dough rises." As Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem, he taught the people in the towns and villages. Someone asked him, "Lord, are only a few people going to be saved?" Jesus answered, "Do all you can to go in by the narrow door. A lot of people will try to get in, but will not be able to. Once the owner of the house gets up and locks the door, you will be left standing outside. You will knock on the door and say, 'Sir, open the door for us.' But the owner will answer, 'I don't know a thing about you.' Then you will start saying, 'We dined with you and you taught in our streets.' But he will say, 'I really don't know who you are. Get away from me, you evil people.' Then, when you have been thrown outside, you will weep and grit your teeth because you will see Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and all the prophets in God's kingdom. People will come from all directions and sit down to feast in God's kingdom. They're the ones who are now least important will be the most important, and those who are now most important will be least important." Okay, pause just a moment. Have you noticed something? Have you noticed that Jesus keeps over and over and over again, keeps doing something? And what he's doing is this. He's saying, pay attention, people, because a lot of you are going to think that you've got it all figured out. You're going to think that you don't need to really listen closely to what I'm saying right now because it's okay. It's no big deal. I know it. Yeah, I'm all set. Thanks, teach. Ready for the quiz. Ready for the test. And Jesus is constantly, over and over and over. You should pay attention when Jesus does something over and over and over again. He's trying to say, there's a lot of you who think you got it all figured out. Don't stop being teachable. Don't stop being a lifelong learner. The minute we think we're all set, we got it all figured out, is the minute that we're wrong. Always keep learning. Let's read on. At that time, some Pharisees came to Jesus and said, "You had better get away from here. Herod wants to kill you." Jesus said to them, "Go tell that fox, I am going to force out demons and heal people today and tomorrow. And 3 days later, I'll be through. But I am going on my way today and tomorrow and the next day. After all, Jerusalem is the place where prophets are killed. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, your people have killed the prophets and have stoned the messengers who were sent to you. I have often wanted to gather your people, as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you wouldn't let me. Now your temple will be deserted. You won't see me again until the time when you say, 'Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord.'" Okay, we just finished chapter 13. We're getting ready to start chapter 14, and something really interesting opens in this first scene. The Pharisees, the ones who have been the religious leaders, the teachers of the law, they're the ones that Jesus keeps calling the nasty names over and over again. They're the ones that he calls out constantly and says, "You're doing it wrong. You're the ones that are messed up, not the people." Well, in this next scene, it opens with him in the home of one of these Pharisees, an important one, it points out. And what this goes to show is that even the Pharisees, even though Jesus at times was offensive to them, he didn't hold back his punches because maybe they deserved it. But here's what it shows. It shows that the Pharisees some of them acknowledged that, yeah, Jesus, he's got something important to say, and I'm listening because it makes sense. And I think he's right. Chapter 14. One Sabbath, Jesus was having dinner in the home of an important Pharisee, and everyone was carefully watching Jesus. All of a sudden, a man with swollen legs stood up in front of him. Jesus turned and asked the Pharisees and the teachers of the law of Moses, "Is it right to heal on the Sabbath?" But they did not say a word. Jesus took a hold of the man. Then he healed him and sent him away. All right, so pause a second. I need to explain this, okay? There was a big rule at the time, and that was you don't do any work on the Sabbath day. And the rule was based on one very important principle, and that was that God wants us to rest. He wants us to take a break. He doesn't want us to get so consumed and so focused on work that we work, and we're just trying to build our empire and build our life, and that there's other things that are important like rest. And so God established rest for our benefit, for us. Along the way, though, as the Pharisees, the teachers of the law did this, they kept adding to the rule and putting more PSs on the end of it, to where it got to a point that a person couldn't do hardly anything according to the rules. And they were so hyper-focused on, you broke the rule, stop, you can't do that, that they were looking at Jesus and saying, you can't heal a person on Sabbath day. What God meant by that was that you are supposed to always help other people in need of help, regardless if it's on the Sabbath day. Just don't do work. Let's continue reading how Jesus responds to this, and it's brilliant. Watch this. Afterwards, Jesus asked the people, "If your son or ox falls into a well, wouldn't you pull him out right away, even on the Sabbath?" There was nothing they could say. Jesus saw how the guests had tried to take the best seats. So he told them, "When you are invited to a wedding feast, don't sit in the best place. Someone more important may have been invited. Then the one who invited you will come and say, 'Give your place to this other guest.' You will be embarrassed and will have to sit in the worst place. When you are invited to be a guest, go and sit in the worst place. Then the one who invited you may come and say, 'My friend, take a better seat.' You will then be honored in front of all the other guests. If you put yourself above others, you will be put down. But if you humble yourself, you will be honored." Then Jesus said to the man who had invited him, "When you give a dinner or a banquet, don't invite your friends and family and relatives and rich neighbors. If you do, they will invite you in return, and you will be paid back. When you give a feast, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind. They cannot pay you back, but God will bless you and reward you when his people rise from death." After Jesus had finished speaking, one of the guests said, "The greatest blessing of all is to be at the banquet in God's kingdom." Jesus told him, A man once gave a great banquet and invited a lot of guests. When the banquet was ready, he sent a servant to tell the guests, "Everything is ready, please come." One guest after another started making excuses. The first one said, "I bought some land and I've got to look it over. Please excuse me." Another guest said, "I bought 5 teams of oxen and I need to try them out. Please excuse me." Still another guest said, "I have just gotten married and I can't be there." The servant told his master what had happened. And the master became so angry that he said, "Go as fast as you can to every street and alley in town. Bring in everyone who is poor or crippled or blind or lame." When the servant returned, he said, "Master, I've done what you told me, and there is still plenty of room for more people." His master then told him, "Go out along the back roads and fence rows and make people come in, so that my house will be full. Not one of the guests I first invited will even get a bite of my food." Large crowds were walking along with Jesus when he turned and said, "You cannot be my disciple unless you love me more than you love your father and mother, your wife and children, and your brothers and sisters. You cannot come with me unless you love me more than you love your own life. You cannot be my disciple unless you carry your own cross and come with me." Oh, I've got to stop here. Man, if there's one thing I want you to get, is what Jesus just said. You cannot be my disciple unless you carry your own cross and come with me. Do you know why this is so significant? Number one, Jesus has not been crucified on a cross yet. We're reading this as readers, thousands of years later, going, "Oh yeah, wow, what a profound thing to say," because Jesus is saying, "Just like me, pick up your cross." Nah, listen, the crowd he's talking to is like, huh? Because for them, the cross represented a place where criminals were executed in a horrible, painful way, where they were on parade, they were on presentation for everyone to walk by and see. They knew what a cross was. You couldn't help smell it when it was on the middle of the street that you had to walk past. They knew what this was. So why would Jesus say to us, "Pick up, carry our own cross and come with me"? Why would Jesus say that to us? Because that's not a pleasant thing. That's not a voice of, "Come on, guys, we're going to win. Go team, rah, rah, rah." This is saying, invite pain, invite hurt, invite the hard road, not the easy road, into your life. That's what a follower of mine is going to do. And they had no idea yet, as much as we do reading now. They had no idea then how profound this was of a statement, what was about to happen to Jesus in just a few chapters from now. Jesus was saying, when you follow me, you will suffer pain. You're choosing a difficult life. Too many times we tell people, "Oh, come be a follower of Jesus. It's going to make your life better. Your life's going to be roses and wonderful and songs like in a musical, la, 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 la." And yeah, there's times that it's like that. Yeah, life is better as a Christian, as a Jesus follower, than it was before. Absolutely. But with that comes a wrong notion that it means that life will be easier and there won't be pain. And there is no exclusion. There is no pill we can take that says, "Oh, I don't have pain today." There is no umbrella that I can get under that says, "Oh, I'm protected for everything just because I guess I'm lucky and I chose to be this way." No. Jesus is saying to you, you're inviting pain. You're inviting hurt into your life by being my follower. I want you to choose the hard path. I want you to sacrifice. Don't give generously because it'll be pressed down, shaken together, and given back to you. Anybody could do that. That's investing. That's basic economics investing. Who wouldn't? Hey, I'll give you $1 and get back 3. Hello. That's just common sense, easy. But what is hard is to say, "I'm going to give you $1 and you know what? You don't have to pay me back. Don't pay me back because I want to help you." The love that Jesus placed inside me, what he's done for me, what Jesus has sacrificed for me compels me. I want to give something away. I'm choosing to give myself less so I can give you more. I'm choosing that. And that's the life that Jesus invites us into. Not a life of luxury, not a life of pampering and a feel good, cozy, I'm going to snuggle in and enjoy my Christianity. Christianity, in Jesus' terms right here, is saying, bring on the pain. Because here's what we know. Pain is only temporary. The cross is only temporary. but what comes after is so worth it. Let's read on. One of you wants to build a tower. What is the first thing you will do? Won't you sit down and figure out how much it will cost and if you have enough money to pay for it? Otherwise, you will start building the tower but not be able to finish. Then everyone who sees what is happening will laugh at you. They will say, "You started building but could not finish the job." What will a king do if he has only 10,000 soldiers to defend himself against a king who is about to attack him with 20,000 soldiers? Before he goes out to battle, won't he first sit down and decide if he can win? If he thinks he won't be able to defend himself, he will send messengers and ask for peace while the other king is still a long way off. So then, you cannot be my disciple unless you give away everything you own. Salt is good, but if it no longer tastes like salt, how can it be made to taste salty again? It is no longer good for the soil or even for the manure pile. People simply throw it out. If you have ears, pay attention. We close this chapter with an amazing point. And the point is this. First of all, salt doesn't lose its effectiveness, but what happens is salt loses its saltiness if it's left out in rain. Because salt is made up of many different ingredients or base minerals, especially back then. The salt that they would mine, well, it had base minerals to it. So when rain came, it washed away the pure parts, left behind the part that had no taste. And so it was common knowledge back in this time when Jesus is talking, you don't leave your salt outside in the rain because it loses its saltiness. But salt was a form of fertilizer. Back in World War II, British farmers used salt to fertilize their fields, especially for beetroot crops. And it worked. They found it helped keep away some weeds, and it helped promote some of the natural parts of the soil to actually produce better crops. Okay? Now, Jesus is saying here that if we're going to look at this as fertilizer, not so much as flavor, mind you, he said salt of the earth, not salt of the meat, like not salt of flavor to the tongue. He's talking about salt of the earth, which means land, soil, which means fertilizer, which means to be fertilizer, you're giving up yourself for the sake of something else or someone else to grow. That you're putting others first, giving of yourself, sacrificing to say, you go ahead. It's not saying, I'm going to fight for what's right for myself. It's saying, I'm going to give up myself for you. Jesus is saying to us to give away, not to take for ourselves, not to clench tightly onto what we have as ours and not let it go. He's saying, give it away. Open your hand. That's all we have for today. Can't wait to see you next time. Bye now.